All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of March and Silva MMA show. And I'm on the wrong screen. Nothing can ever go right. But welcome back to another episode of the March and Silva MMA show. Once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Austin Silva. How's it going over there?
It's going great in Chicago right now. It's very heated over here. It's commonplace to have this kind of heat over here. But I hear over in the UK, you guys are suffering out there with that heat.
Absolutely. We've had 30 degrees heat last week, and it's been ridiculous. And as you talked about, we're not really used to like hot weather, and it was once it hit us, oh my goodness, it felt like 60 degrees. It was ridiculous.
You know what didn't bring the heat for the most part? UFC London this past Saturday. This event really did not live up to everybody's expectations, but the main card was full of tons of finishes and moments that I think we'll be remembering for some time. So we'll start with the main event, of course. The main event was between Curtis Blaydes and Tom Aspinall. The fight ends via TKO 15 seconds into the first round. That was so unfortunate because it looked like it was going to be an absolute banger of a fight. Both guys were engaging in the pocket right away. We saw Curtis Blaydes land a couple of right hands. I thought he got a little bit better of exchanges in the little bit that there was, but you really couldn't tell much about the matchup itself in that little bit of time. Curtis actually said that he didn't think Tom was that quick in that little time. I don't think you could really tell. Tom really, I felt he had a real opportunity to knock out Curtis in that spot, but then again, Curtis Blaydes had that wrestling advantage. Didn't even get to use it. This matchup, I feel, will happen once again in the future, but it will not happen next, of course, with Tom Aspinall's knee blowing out. We don't know what the exact injury is, but it did look ugly. He stepped backwards wrong and, immediately held his leg. Looked to be in immense pain. And especially for a bigger guy, you're putting that kind of weight on those joints. It's very unpleasant to see. Curtis Blaydes, on the other hand, he's now in a prime position to fight the winner of Cyril Gane versus Tai Tuivasa in Paris.
Absolutely, it was a fantastic event. The main card was fantastic. The prelims not so much, but it felt like everything was going wrong in this event, and obviously they had hard expectations to live up from the last UFC London, and I felt like it was always going to be hard to top that show.
Yeah, it kind of had sequel syndrome. Everybody was comparing it to the first one, and this one did not live up to it at all. There were barely any decisions in the first UFC London, and in this one, there were barely any finishes. But hey, we had some really entertaining ones across the board. Of course, we had the big superstars winning in spectacular fashion, but for Curtis Blaydes, he did not lose anything. And for Tom Aspinall, I really didn't think he lost anything either, besides, his health temporarily. I think when he comes back, he'll be more motivated than ever, and I think he will definitely be champion one day. I think he has the right skill set to do it.
Absolutely agree. Everything you said there, Tom Aspinall will be back one day. It's just a matter of time, and whether they rematch him, make him go at it again. And as you talked about the early exchanges, as you talked about, it looked like it was going to be a good fight. And obviously, as you talked about as well, Curtis Blaydes was getting the better of the exchanges. Got to agree.
Yeah, Curtis Blaydes has some real power, man, and he was finding a home early. You never know how that fight could have gone. But once again, people underestimated Curtis Blaydes, and I picked him as an underdog. So I'll take my win this week, because last week I picked Brian Ortega, and that blew up in my face because of an injury. So you'll take your losses on the chin. You'll take your wins. You'll take your wins with happiness.
Absolutely. And in the co-main event, it wasn't the best as well. Jack Hermansson did what he needed to do. He got the job done. 30-27, 29-28 on the scorecards. It just seemed like Chris Curtis couldn't get his game moving on this light. And obviously there was a few technical errors that he made.
Yeah, this was a really weird fight in many ways. First of all, you had Chris Curtis. He had fought 3 weeks ago. He had a wrist injury, and Jack Hermansson, he was preparing for Darren Till. So right away, the stylistic matchup is a little awkward because Jack Hermanson was not preparing for the Chris Curtis matchup. Either way, the big thing to me that stuck out in this fight was Jack Hermanson's footwork. It has never looked better. And his gas tank was off the chain, too. The guy was on his bike the whole fight. Even though Chris Curtis was walking forward, Jack Hermanson was not there to be hit all that often. And in the end, Jack Hermanson gets the 30-27 in my eyes, at least. Chris Curtis, when he backed up Jack Hermanson in some spots up against the cage, he could have fired some body shots. He could have thrown a right hand. He did not throw it. I felt like he was a little timid there. Maybe it was his wrist injury, but he could not find a home for his strikes often. Jack Hermanson, on the other hand, landing a lot of light kicks. And in that second round, he had a big moment. He was able to rock Chris Curtis with a head kick, and Curtis wobbled backwards, and Jack Hermanson threw a flurry of elbows. None of them really landed, though. Curtis was defensively sound enough there. But for Jack Hermanson, I feel like this is the best performance we've seen of him as a whole. Even in some of those wins, we had seen Jack Hermanson face a lot of adversity, maybe get taken down, and then find the finish. But this, for me, was a clean sweep for him. And I really think, had it been Darren Till in there, he could have won that fight too. So for Jack Hermanson, really good game plan. And of course, at the end of the fight, we saw some clear frustration from Chris Curtis, giving Jack Hermanson the double bird there. And there was some words exchanged. Curtis really was salty at the end. And that really showed that Jack Hermanson's game plan worked. He frustrated Curtis.
Absolutely, it was a fun. As you talked about, the game plan was Hermanson was pitch perfect. Chris Curtis, as you talked about, frustrated at the end, and really that didn't really show his actual character. He's such a nice guy. Both of these are really down to earth, and he obviously apologized after the fight.
Yeah. Chris, both guys are nice, but Curtis, of course, he does have a temper. He's admitted. And for Jack Hermanson, this is a win that really he gains nothing from. Let's be honest, Chris Curtis not even in the top 15. For Jack Hermanson, probably we should be seeing him fight Andre Muniz next.
Absolutely, that would be a fantastic fight. Jack Hermanson getting the job done. You talked about if Darren Till was in there, maybe it'd be a different story.
Yeah, I really think that Darren Till definitely would have been a bit more aggressive than Curtis. But for Jack Hermanson, I think those takedowns would have been easier because that Chris Curtis takedown defense is off the chain. You cannot take this guy down from the looks of it. And I don't think Darren Till is, in the same spot in that skill. Jack Hermanson, I said pre-fight, I said he should not live and die on his grappling like he did against Sean Strickland. Once he was forced to strike, he was frustrated because he couldn't grapple. But in this fight, he had confidence in his striking, and it paid off for him. The takedown threat alone really helped him out.
Absolutely, a fantastic fight for Jack Hermanson. And then we'll swiftly move on to one of the biggest stars in the UFC, or if not the biggest star in the UFC, Paddy Pimblett. Depends on what your word is. But Paddy Pimblett gets the job done against Jordan Levitt after a tough first round, I must say. Arguably lost that first round. I thought he lost that first round anyway. And in the second round, he got the job done, gets that, the submission, gets on the mic, produces one of the best post-fight interviews that I've ever seen inside the UFC. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It really touched a lot of people's heart that night. But yes, Paddy Pimblett improves to 3-0 inside the UFC and continues his wave to the top of the division, obviously to the top of the UFC stardom.
Yeah, Paddy Pimblett in this fight, the majority of it did not look all that impressive. Jordan Levitt, I did not give him enough credit heading into the fight. I said that his striking was awful, and it is. Every time they were striking, Paddy was touching him up. But, of course, Jordan's smart enough to shoot a takedown. He goes for the takedown, and he gets it. Paddy, I don't know, maybe just because he used to be a featherweight, but Jordan Levitt did outmuscle him here at times. And Jordan, though he did get the takedowns, basically zero ground and pound was done. Anything significant really was not there for Jordan. And Paddy was able to reverse position at the end of that first round and get some ground and pound of his own, some sharp elbows. And I thought that alone was more damage than Jordan had done that whole round. So I scored that first round for Paddy Pimblett. And come round two, Jordan Levitt goes for the takedown. Paddy Pimblett gets him in some weird standing arm triangle position. He knees Jordan, and a lot of people don't know this, but Jordan actually got knocked out by that knee, and he woke up with his arm trapped in that body triangle, so he couldn't defend the rear naked choke properly. And Paddy Pimblett gets the choke in, and Jordan taps out as he's recently woken up. So this was a good performance by Paddy Pimblett, and in retrospect, it is courageous because the guy dealt with 2 losses in his life, and he still went out there like a star and still got that finish. Paddy's a very opportunistic finisher. Like in the Kazula Vargas fight, he got taken down there too, but he finds that judo throw and eventually gets that rear naked choke. So Paddy, he can be in a bad spot, but the guy's a real fighter. He will find that finish even if he's down on the scorecard. So this to me shows that Paddy Pimblett really he's a natural fighter. It's just his actual skills that just need to improve a little bit. Mainly, I would say defensive wrestling.
Absolutely. Paddy Pimblett, the train continues another time, but he said he wants to fight in Vegas, preferably in December. So the matchup next for him, I would probably say maybe Terrence McKinney, but that'll be a difficult matchup. But I'd like a little wrestler as well.
Yikes, you're trying to get Paddy Pimblett killed?
I think it's a good matchup. I think it's fight of the night potential, obviously.
Honestly, I don't think Paddy survives that first round with Terrence. Terrence actually is already booked against the Ghost Pepper, Eric Gonzalez. He's a minus 1,000 favorite. I guarantee you that Terrence will steamroll Eric in that fight. I know they're two. Or
maybe even Matt Frivola. He called him out the other day.
Yeah, I don't know where Matt Frivola is at right now. He's been inactive for a long time, so maybe he wants to fight before December. We don't know. But I personally recommended Damir Hadzovic. Udemir got dominated on this fight by a wrestler. Paddy, I don't think he would wrestle. I think he would want to stand and bang. And I think Udemir has the potential to KO Paddy. I do want to see Paddy fight a tough, powerful puncher like a Udemir. So that would be interesting to me. Honestly, if you're the UFC, you do not want to see this guy lose right now. You don't. Because when he walks out, it's like Connor's walking out. They gain a lot from him. So I really don't see the benefit in him taking a huge step up in competition and risking a loss.
Absolutely agree. They've got to go slow with him, and obviously the longer, when they gradually build him up, he's going to improve and obviously become into a better fighter. I absolutely agree. Fantastic performance from Paddy after a tough first round. He gets it done, but a tough loss happened in the main card, and that was against Alexander Gustafsson getting knocked out by Nikita Krilov. And we were talking before we went on there, if this was the Gus from back in 2015, 2014, this would not be happening. But I think we both agreed that Gus time has came to an end. I think it's time for him to hang it up. I think his chin's gone. I just don't think his skills were that it was.
Yeah, straight ahead, Nikita Krilov decides he can bum rush Gustafsson. He goes for that finish right away. He drops Gustafsson with the first real clean punch there. And that just doesn't happen to Gustafsson back in his glory days. Gustafsson, in his own words, has stated that he is out of his prime. And Krilov really reminded him of that. Drops him right away. Gustafsson does not recover well. He gets up, but he's still on wobbly legs. He's getting swarmed by Krilov. Gustafsson, I believe it was a knee or a kick he caught. And in that position, Gustafsson was left vulnerable. And Krilov unloads a left hook. And it wasn't even the hardest punch out there. With that little left hook, he puts down Gustafsson. Gustafsson is out. And the referee is a little late to stop the fight. Brutal finish. Usually this would be an exciting finish to look at. But since it's a guy that we really like and respect, like Gustafsson, it was very tough to watch. This fight was over in just a minute. Rumble Johnson, a much more powerful puncher than Krilov. It took until midway through the second round with a headbutt. So this lets you know just how diminished the durability is with Gustafsson.
Absolutely. Every veteran has its time. And obviously, I think that's maybe the last time we see Gustafsson back in the octagon. But he did mention before we went on there as well, UFC Sweden, that would be a perfect time for him to bow out. And obviously, he listed a few opponents as well.
Yeah, I think if you're going to put him in there, you're not going to put him in there with a power puncher. Nikita Krilov was not a power puncher, but he does have some pop on his punches. Uh, as for Gustafsson, put him in there with a grappler, I guess, or put him in there with a like a legend like Mauricio Shogun Rua, who does not have that same pop, isn't all that quick, and Gustafsson would have a shot of winning that too. So I think Shogun Rua, if Gustafsson's not retired, which in my opinion, you have got to retire when your chin is that far gone.
Absolutely. Moving over from a legend to the other cash cow inside the UFC. Meeple Molly McCann proves once again that she's got hands of absolute steel, and obviously that spinning elbow. Once again, she's taken the move off The Rock. The Rock and her went back and forth on Twitter in a fantastic little engagement. But yes, Molly McCann gets it done, spinning back elbow, and then the ground and pound finish. She looked a step ahead when it comes to boxing, and it really showed.
Yeah, how can you not love Meatball Molly? She goes out there super aggressive, gets the crowd fired up, and I said it multiple times heading into the show. The crowd is a performance booster for Molly. She feeds off them, and right away she goes for the finish. And this is uncommon for Molly. She really was not getting these quick finishes prior to this series of UFC London events. Molly TKOs or knocks out Hannah Goldie in round 1 with a spinning back elbow. This was a very late stoppage by Herb Dean. It was without a doubt that Hannah Goldie was out as soon as she got clipped with that elbow. Hannah Goldie, she had some success holding Molly up against the cage for about a minute, but she did not do anything there. Hannah Goldie's just a very low-level fighter. Her only win was Emily Whitmire, who had like a 6-6 record. So I really thought this was a give me fight for Molly McCann. Very easy, winnable fight. And a lot of people were saying that Goldie had a real shot. I really just couldn't tell you how Goldie was going to win this fight. And Molly treated her accordingly, absolutely destroyed her. And from here, Molly, you can give her a ranked opponent, or you can just give her that Paddy treatment, give her another easy fight. But there's no doubt that Paddy Pimblett and Molly McCann are very likely to fight on the same card for the rest of their careers.
Absolutely. When them two on the same event, it just brings another sort of atmosphere. So, yes, I'd definitely love to see it. Molly McCann obviously called out Miranda Maverick, or Miranda Maverick actually called out Molly McCann. Miranda Maverick has got to handle her business, though, on UFC 280?
278, I think.
278, okay, against Shenny Young.
Yeah, I think that's a very easy fight for Miranda Maverick, so she would be untouched coming out of that fight. I think that's a bad matchup for Molly McCann. I think Miranda's super strong, even stronger than Hannah Goldie. I think that would be a rough night at the office for Molly. So I think if you want to give Molly a very winnable fight, but not a totally easy fight, I think you would give her Courtney Casey. Courtney Casey does have a bad record, but those losses, majority are split decisions. In fact, their last one controversial as well. So Molly called out Antonina Shevchenko. You could argue that Courtney Casey is better than Shevchenko. So I say you can definitely do that fight.
Absolutely, and obviously Molly McCann getting on the mic, calling out the rest of the prelims where we get to talk about it, and she says that how they disappointed the UFC crowd, and I absolutely agree. I think obviously you paid loads of money, and the prelims, we'll get to them. We get to talk about. Before we get there, we get to talk about Paul Craig versus Volkan Udemir. And Volkan Udemir, he did what he needed to do, and he stuffed 15 takedowns from Beardew. Paul Craig, if he doesn't get that takedown or he doesn't get you in your guard, it seems like he doesn't really have a plan B.
Yeah, Paul Craig fought a lot like Ryan Hall in this fight. He didn't really go for leg locks, but he was super happy to just flop around like a fish, hoping to get a submission. In this fight, even though he had grappling success in bits and pieces, Paul Craig didn't get a single takedown out of 15 attempts. Volkan Udemir fought smart in this fight. He did not really look to engage in the grappling like some other of his other Paul Craig opponents have, including Nikita Krilov, who had an awful game plan. Volkan learned from the mistakes of those other guys and instead he looked to stand with Paul Craig. But don't get me wrong, Volkan Usman did not look good in this fight. Paul Craig really frustrated Volkan. Volkan looked very concerned about getting taken down, and with that takedown threat, Paul Craig was able to touch up Volkan multiple times on the feet. But at the end of the day, that was round one. And round two, Volkan definitely had the better moments on the feet. And Paul Craig, of course, trying to get that triangle, but it just wasn't there. And in round three, that was, of course, Volkan's best round. He rocks Paul Craig. I thought Paul Craig was about to go out, but somehow he survives. And once again, just fails to get anything done on the ground. And Volkan outpoints him on the feet. I feel like Paul Craig maybe should look for a 5-round fight, because the guy is not looking to win rounds. He's just looking for the finish. And to quote, wise men once said, if you look for a finish, you're never going to win a decision.
Absolutely. Paul Craig, a rough night at the office, but obviously Volkan Usman, he got the job done. Back into that win column. Maybe some momentum can get behind some Volkan Usman, obviously a former title challenger. Never got to them heights since then.
Yeah, Paul Craig, of course, still has very high-quality wins. The standouts, of course, Jamal Hill and Magomed Ankalaev, who's fighting this Saturday. Probably prime for a title shot, too. But for Paul Craig, this is a very risky style, and a lot of people were very confident in him doing it again, but I know Volkan was definitely the better striker, so had to pick him here. So somehow we didn't get a finish, because I was so confident we would see a finish in this fight. But once again, one of the many letdowns of the card, a very strange fight. But now let's talk about those prelims that Molly McCann was calling out.
Absolutely. Mason Jones against Ludwig Klein. Ludwig Klein striking was the name of this fight. And obviously the control time, 6 minutes and 41 seconds. It just seemed a step ahead of Mason Jones. Mason Jones is good, but Ludwig Klein just seemed quicker and more sharper with the strikes.
Yeah, to me, this was a fight where I thought Mason Jones was too big of a favorite. He was like a 5-1 favorite. I know Ludwig Klein is a very powerful striker. I didn't think he would have the grappling in that fight. I did not call this at all. He was able to outmuscle Mason Jones a lot in this fight. Mason Jones appeared to be fatigued too. In that first round, that was a fairly close round, but at the end of the day, Ludwig Klein did touch up Mason Jones on the feet. Jones is very willing to go right in the pocket, and his defense obviously needs work. So that round went to Klein, and in round two, that was the big round for Klein. He scores that knockdown, and Mason Jones, he gets taken down as well, control there. Round three was pretty dominant Klein's part. He was able to out-wrestle Mason. I thought Mason would be able to out-wrestle Ludwig, but I was wrong. I was also wrong about Ludwig's gas tank. It looked really poor at featherweight in that one fight against Nate Landwehr. But we've seen it many times. Some guys with that weight cut, their gas tank really suffers. So moving up for Klein was a right move, because he didn't look undersized in this fight. He's very muscular, and he hits very hard. So Ludwig Klein, he has a better future than I once thought he did.
Absolutely. Obviously burst on the scene against Shane Young, now getting the win against Mason Jones. A highly touted Mason Jones, obviously a former 2-weight division champion of Cage Warriors. In coming in his debut, he loses against Mike Davis, and obviously now falling in the hands of defeat to Ludwig Klein. And hopefully Ludwig Klein can pick up some, a little bit of momentum now going forward.
Yeah, for Klein, he's coming off that win over Devontae Smith earlier this year. And now he's really got some momentum behind him. There's a lot of ways he can go, but I think the next fight for him should be a guy that he cannot out-wrestle. I think the next fight should be Ricky Glenn.
Absolutely love that fight. That would be an absolute, a really good fight for obviously Ludwig Klein to test his skills, and obviously Ricky Glenn as well. Moving on swiftly to Mark Diakese. As we talked about, the prelims weren't really action-packed, and obviously this one was a bit of a hard watch. Mark Diakese had opportunities to finish this fight. He was the better fighter everywhere. I felt like he was the better fighter striking, better fight grappling, but he just didn't really showcase it on this night. He was content of riding the fight out and going to the scorecards, and that's what we saw. He got the job done. He got the win. But that's what I felt like. On this night, I think Mike Casey went in there to win and not impress. He got the job done. That's 2 back-to-back now. But, yeah, there's nothing really to write home about this.
I think you could list this as one of the most boring fights in MMA history. Like, I don't recall the last time I was this bored watching a fight. Probably Nunes versus Esparza. Holy crap. Did Mark Casey have a huge wrestling advantage here? Mark Casey, out of nowhere, it kind of seems like he's really fallen in love with his wrestling. Back in the day, he really was only looking to strike and then mixing the takedowns. But now it appears he's mixing in the striking. This guy, when he sees the clear advantage, he'll take it. And Udemir Hadzovic is not a good defensive grappler. And boy, did he show it here. We don't need to give this fight any real time. This was domination in every round. It was a takedown in every round. And Udemir could not get up. Literally, that's it. No real ground and pound domination. The crowd is always behind their guys. They were not behind Mark because Mark did not care to entertain at all.
Absolutely agree. As you can see by the strikes there, even nothing really doing with it. As you talked about the ground and pound, it was more control time for Mark Casey. It's a 15-minute fight, and there was 13 minutes and 35 seconds of control time. So it tells you how dominant he was on the ground. Obviously, he got the job done. 2 wins back to back now, so that's good for him. A little bit of momentum going forward now. But a momentum for another fight, and that's Nathaniel Wood. A fantastic fight versus Charles Rosa. I said to you when this fight got announced, I thought it was a tough fight for Nathaniel Wood, but he just showed me, and it was a complete shutout. Striking was absolutely incredible from Nathaniel Wood. He had 2-year layoff, but in them 2 years, I don't know who. I think it was Barry, the boxing coach. They've actually worked wonders on Nathaniel Wood because not only has he looked better, he just looked improved everywhere. Obviously, the takedown defense, it held up, and obviously he mixed it all up together against Charles Rosa, who I thought was a crafty veteran, might cause him some troubles, but man, them leg kicks of Nathaniel Wood completely shut out Charles Rosa.
Yeah, 31 total leg kicks here. Nathaniel Wood, it's one of the most prolific leg kickers in the UFC's history already. The guy is very accurate with the leg kicks, sets them up well. And Charles Rosa, on the other hand, the only real shot I gave him in this fight was maybe getting some kind of sweep with his jiu-jitsu on the ground. But outside of that, I knew this was a mismatch on my feet, especially in terms of speed. Charles Rosa now 35. Nathaniel Wood is a young buck, very quick and powerful. And he did not look undersized in this weight class. The only moment Charles Rosa had this whole fight was an attempted anaconda choke, I believe it was, in round 1. But it wasn't a saved by the belt moment because Nathaniel Wood got out of it. So for Nathaniel Wood, this is a huge confidence booster, especially after such a long layoff. And I think in the featherweight division, he will fit in just fine.
Absolutely. Nathaniel Wood looking fantastic. Getting the job done. 30-26, so he got a 10-8 and 2 scorecards. And surely that's got to be, what, the third round? Or I believe?
Third or second round. He was knocking down Charles Rosa several times. Charles Rosa's, I don't know how he didn't get TKO'd with those leg kicks. He's a very tough guy. Almost impossible to put away. Awesome performance by Nathaniel Wood. This was one of the few entertaining fights on the prelims. Move on now to one of the other entertaining fights on the prelims.
Absolutely, Makwan Amirkhani versus Jonathan Perez. I picked Makwan Amirkhani, and Jonathan Perez absolutely told me no. He shut me off in this. In the first round, it's quite tough. Jonathan Perez got put in some positions, but once it got out for that second round, Makwan Amirkhani looked like he was completely gassed.
Yeah, Makwan Amirkhani, I thought he was going to wait for Jonathan Perez to go for the takedowns in that first round so he could get his neck. But he actually went for the takedowns early on. And Makwan, I don't know what the hell's going on with his cardio. I don't know why he can't fire that first round. He goes all out right away. Try to get a submission on Jonathan Perez. But Perez was hip to it. He knew that Makwan wanted the anaconda, so he defended it well. And once we got to that second round, Perez really mauled Makwan Amirkhani. He was able to get multiple takedowns, and Mach 1 was absolutely cooked there. He did not have the energy to defend himself, and Pierce finishes him with ground and pound. This is what Pierce does, man. He's very good at wearing guys out. The Omar Morales fight is another example of that. Pierce has really good cardio, and the relentless pace wore down Mach 1. This was a fight where we were either going to see Mach 1 getting a quick finish, or we were going to see what we saw with Pierce getting that late finish.
Absolutely. It was a good performance to Jonathan Pierce, gets the job done. But also getting the job done was Mohamed against Charles Johnson. And I've got to be honest, Johnson put on a fantastic performance for a debut, coming in against a highly touted prospect like Mohamed Mokaev. I've got to say, I think obviously Mohamed got the win, but I think the real story is of how good a performance Charles Johnson actually put on.
I thought Charles Johnson had an awful offensive performance. It was all defense for him. All he was doing was defending. It looked like his goal in this fight was not to get finished. And Mokaev, the whole fight, basically did what he wanted to Charles. Of course, Mokaev knew that Charles was the better striker, so he stayed away from it, and he fought to his strengths, dominated Charles Johnson. This is another fight, was not really exciting. Mokaev was able to dominate Charles, but it showed us that Mokaev is not this submission ace, really, that some people are making out to be. He's not a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's just a very powerful wrestler, and I really think that this guy is a future champion. I believe he's 21, 22 now. He's got all the potential in the world. He's got a great style that will give a lot of guys issues.
Absolutely agree. Is obviously the speed of the takedowns is absolutely lightning quick. They touched up on commentary, and the way he mixes it up, I think it's second to none. I think he can propose, challenges to the top 5 in the world. He called out Brandon Royval on Twitter, so that'll be interesting. See what happens there. But yes, the sky is the limit for Mohamed Mokaev, and it's just be interesting how the UFC use him next.
Yeah, you could give him a top 10 guy easily, and he probably beats him. But it all depends on where they want to go with him. You could just give him unranked guys, and he'll destroy them all. So for Mokaev, I think he could beat some guys in the top 10 already. That's how good he is this young and early into his career.
Absolutely. Moving on to Jay Herbert, getting this unanimous decision over Carl Nelson. Yet again, striking and control time up against the cage was the story of this fight. And as we talked about, not very exciting to really kick off the card. 3 decisions in a row. Them fans are probably thinking that they're regretting to come to the event at that stage.
Yeah, this was a close fight, actually. Jay Herbert was not looking to get that knockout at all. He played it very safe. He learned from the Ilia Topuria fight. He said, why get into a brawl when I got the strength advantage here? And that's what he did have here. Of course, working with Leon Edwards, you're bound to have a good clinch game. Leon Edwards has got a tremendous clinch game. Herbert put that to use here. At distance, I thought Carl Nelson was getting the better of Jay, and Jai was very motivated to go into the clinch. And he got that control time. I felt like when they were at distance, Herbert had a real shot to get a knockout, but he did not want to, roll the dice there and get into a brawl with Kyle, who Kyle at this weight class, I think, is more dangerous than he was at featherweight. At featherweight, he has a bad gas tank. He's got a bad chin. But at lightweight, he's very capable. But Jay Herbert shut him down.
Absolutely. Jay Herbert, you're just being a step ahead of Carl Nelson in this one. But yeah, it's good for obviously Jay Herbert getting the confidence back. I think that's what it was. Getting the confidence back after, Ilya being so close to victory and obviously getting finished to how he did. This one was a big confidence builder and obviously using his skills to his ability to get the job done. Moving over to the next fight, Mandy Bone versus Victor Leonardo. Do we talk about this one?
Yeah, this was a fairly uneventful fight. But here's the thing. Somehow, Mandy Bone was the favorite in this fight. Victor Leonardo was an underdog I picked without any real fear. It appears to me that Mandy Bone is not really good anywhere. Victoria Leonardo, she's got this Muay Thai background, but she's not a world beater by any stretch of the imagination. And when she got the takedowns, she held down Mandy. So I don't think Mandy's UFC caliber. Victoria Leonard, on the other hand, she will definitely humble some of these prospects on the right night.
Absolutely. Yeah, a big shame for obviously Mandy Bone. She came out of Bellator. We talked about her. She hadn't had the best of records. Hasn't beat the best of people, but since coming into the UFC, dropped 2 back-to-back losses against Aaron Linsky and Vineto Leonardo, and obviously not the best of competition. But yes, just shows that UFC is obviously a step ahead of these other promotions. But moving swiftly over to the first fight of the evening, Nicholas Dalby getting a close unanimous decision win over Claudio Silva, 29-27, 29-28, 29-28. Man, this was quite a close one. Obviously, the grappling was exchanged both ways.
Claudio Silva pulled the Claudio Silva in this one. The guy is very dangerous in round 1. He can submit a lot of guys early, but if he doesn't get it, the guy significantly slows down, especially now that he's 40. He really looked his age in this fight. And come round 2, the grappling success wasn't like it was early, and Dalby unleashes a flurry of strikes on Claudio Silva. It looked like he was close to finishing him there for a while. Was making him eat clean knees to the body and to the head. Somehow Silva survives, and Silva, he does get some takedowns a little later, but really no success there for Claudio. And Dalby was able to reverse position, stay on top. And yeah, Dalby got a solid win here. Claudio Silva is a far cry from the guy that once beat Leon Edwards.
Absolutely. Look at me trying to change the screens, but not going right. But anyway, yeah. This event, the prelims, we talked about it wasn't action-packed. 3 decisions in a row. And then obviously, actually 4 decisions in a row. Obviously, then we had the Jonathan Perez getting the job done. Nathaniel Wood showing up, getting the job done as well, looking fantastic. Mark DKC doing what he had to do, wrestle against Udemir Handanovic, and obviously Ludwig Klein showing that he's one step ahead of Mason Jones on the feet and obviously grappling as well. Volkan Udemir also getting the job done, looking to get a win. Molly McCann absolutely showcasing how brilliant she is with that spinning back elbow. Alexander Gustafsson suffering a TKO loss or KO loss. Tough to see. Paddy Pimblett's showcasing his stardom, his UFC star power, and obviously it continues to rise inside the UFC. Jack Hermansson utilizing his weapons to get the job done against Chris Curtis. 0 out of 6 takedowns, but obviously the striking was the massive factor. He stayed down the outside and got the job done. Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades unfortunately ended in an injury, so there's not really much to talk about there. But yeah, swiftly moving on to this event this week, and we got a fantastic event. But before we get there, we did have Bellator this weekend too. Not too much to really talk about yet again. We had a really disappointing MMA weekend. Douglas Lima versus Jason Jackson was the main event, but to be honest, there's not really much to talk about. Jason Jackson got the win, and that's pretty much it. He'll probably next fight for the next title shot. But the one you could really talk about is Sidney Outlaw versus I don't know how to say Turek. His second name, I don't know how to say Turek Masiev, I want to call him. Yeah. Knocked out Sidney Outlaw in 27 seconds, and now he's probably going to shoot for the title. But yeah, the Bellator card wasn't too action-packed. I'm not too sure if Oscar wants to say a few words.
I do want to mention Usman Nurmagomedov getting himself a first-round front choke in round 1 against Chris Gonzalez. Goodness gracious. Usman Nurmagomedov is a menace, and what really stands out about him amongst the Russians is that he's got fantastic striking, and then he'll mix in that grappling that kind of reminds me of Zabit and Umar Nurmagomedov a little bit. I really like his full skill set, and as he said, this guy looks like he's ready for a title shot pretty much. If you ask me if he's going to beat Patricky Pitbull, I think he beats Patricky Pitbull by now.
Absolutely agree. And obviously, a fantastic, he talks about the way he switches it all up, makes it all together, was phenomenal. Patricky Pitbull was scheduled to fight, off the top of my head, Sidney Outlaw, actually fighting on the card. Yeah, he was meant to fight Sidney Outlaw, and obviously Sidney Outlaw just lost his title shot. So it's really Tariq versus Usman Nurmagomedov. So
yeah, you could do that too. Tariq wasn't even ranked, and he goes out there and knocks out the number 1 contender. That was a true statement, and I didn't see that coming because Sidney was once on this big win streak. Of course, the momentum was stunted by Michael Chandler. But tough beat for Sydney. I don't think he's getting a top shot again.
Yeah, Tariq was a former Rising champion. Then made his way over to Bellator and obviously now showcased his move. And it was good. But as I talked about, the MMA weekend wasn't too action-packed. Douglas Lima versus Jason Jackson, really not too much to talk about. Once Jason Jackson knew he had that wrestling advantage, it was just 5 rounds of control.
Yeah, that was just not what you wanted to see there, especially for Lima. He needed a bounce back, and it just appears that his best days are behind him.
Absolutely agree. But yeah, we'll swiftly move on to the big card that we have this weekend. UFC 277, Pena versus Nunes, number 2, the rematch. This one's going to be interesting because Nunes has got a lot to learn from that last fight. In that first round, she threw everything in there. She was headhunting. And obviously in the second round, she was pretty much, her gas was gone. There's a lot to learn for Nunes, and I believe she will overcome that and she will regain her title back. And I believe Oscar will have the same sort of message.
Yeah, the main event of UFC 277 is the UFC bantamweight champion Juliana Pena taking on the UFC featherweight champion Amanda Nunes. So this is champion versus champion. A lot of people are forgetting that. Juliana Pena, of course, got the second round submission in their first meeting. That was probably the biggest women's upset in UFC history. I really didn't see that coming at all. Of course, Amanda Nunes was cemented as the greatest women's MMA fighter of all time. She had beaten almost every female champion the UFC's ever had, and a lot of them were finishes. So you put Juliana Pena in there, who just a year ago had gotten submitted by Jermaine Duranami, a straight-up kickboxer. A lot of people thought Nunes would be able to do whatever she wanted in that fight. But what we didn't know is that Amanda Nunes had a knee injury coming into the fight. There was rumors that she wasn't training a lot. They were saying that she was not motivated, and nobody knew about the knee injury. So now it all makes sense that she wasn't training as much as she used to. But of course, Amanda Nunes still walked into the octagon that night, and Pena was the better woman that night. But on this night, I think Amanda Nunes will reclaim her women's bantamweight championship. Of course, in the first fight, she had all the confidence in the world, and confidence can be good or bad. In that case, it was bad because she fought like she did, say, in the Chris Cyborg fight, in the Misha Tate fight, in the Ronda Rousey fights. In those fights, she was fighting women that aren't super durable, like Juliana Pena. Juliana Pena, you could say she's got maybe the best chin we've seen in women's MMA history. It's her and Felicia Spencer, I would say. Juliana Pena was able to counter Nunes' wide hooks with her straight punches. Her jab was a huge weapon that night. But if you look at that round 1 where Nunes wasn't super tired, she wasn't fighting all that dumb, she's able to knock down Juliana Pena in the first round. And eventually we see the fight go to the ground, and Nunes gets top position, and Pena, all she can do from the bottom is try Kimura. Does not get anything really going with it. What Nunes needs to avoid doing is to think she can knock out Pena like she did her past opponents. She needs to be more technical. If you look at the Valentin Shevchenko rematch, she fought super smart. That was a real flex of the fight IQ in that fight, just using leg kicks, the teep kicks, not really taking any advantage, not overusing her energy like she did. I think if Nunes stays technical in this fight, and don't forget with Nunes, she has moved out of American Top Team. She now has her own gym. That can be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm hoping it's a good thing, and I think she will outpoint Juliana Pena for 25 minutes here. I don't think she's going to want to risk getting taken down here, getting gassed. I think she's going to fight smart, and she's going to win a 5-round decision here against Juliana Pena. Juliana Pena, her greatest strength, of course, is her forward pressure and her takedowns. And if Nunes if she's not tired, it's not going to work, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree. I think Amanda Nunes needs to wait for the finish to present itself and not hunt for it as she did in her last fight. She hunted for it, gassed herself out. She was thrown with a little bit of a reckless and abandonment and obviously paid the price in that second round. I think the game plan, obviously, for Nunes is staying technical, as you said, keeping Julia Pena at the end of her jab and just popping her and teeing off her. I think that's where, the big advantage is. Amanda Nunes will be able to strike with Julia Pena for 5 rounds, as we've seen, as you talked about, Valentina Shevchenko. That was a really good technical chess match. She just needs to be wary of not getting taken down. But I believe if she does get taken down, I also do believe that Amanda Nunes, if she's fresh she's ready and she's fit, I do believe she'll be able to get back to her feet. I mean, she's incredible. She just came in with the wrong game plan against Julia Pena in that first fight, and I believe she's going to right the wrong in this fight. She's going to go in there. She's going to do what was meant to happen in that first fight.
Yeah, Juliana Pena, as I said, her chin is really good, but I mentioned before, she got submitted by Shevchenko. She got submitted by Germaine de Randamie. So if we see Pena get frustrated and try to force grappling, we could very well see Amanda Nunes get a guillotine or an armbar, something off her back, because Nunes is a very legit black belt. So I think Pena has got her hands full. If Nunes fights smart, that's just how I see it. I'm seeing this not the same way I saw the matchup originally, but I'm seeing Nunes give Pena the respects that she deserves, and she's going to be able to be the more skilled fighter, because if you look at their skills on paper, I truly believe Nunes is the better fighter, but she fought a stupid game plan, in my opinion, in that first fight, and it cost her. Not only that, she was injured, so a healthy Nunes with a good game plan is an absolute beast and damn near unbeatable, unless your name is Valentina Shevchenko.
Absolutely agree. That was the main event. Amanda Nunes were both in agreement. The co-main event is also very intriguing. Another title matchup between Brandon Moreno.
I think this is going to be the fight of the night right here. If it will be Dober versus Rafael Alves. Brandon Moreno, in January, he fought Davison Figueiredo. He was defending his flyweight championship that night in Anaheim, California. He goes out there and has an absolute war, and it was a split decision, I believe. And that was a very close fight. I felt like Moreno may have had the better technique at times, but Davidson's power advantage really shined, especially in round 3, I believe it was, where Brandon got knocked down after having a solid round. So for Brandon Moreno, he does need to avoid getting clipped in this fight, like he did in the first fight with Kai Kara-France. When he fought Kai Kara-France back in December of 2019, he did get dropped in that first round, but he adjusted. And Kai Kara-France, his biggest strength, we all know, it's that striking. But if you watch that first fight, Brandon Moreno's a better striker. That first fight was not all that long ago, honestly. Kai Kara-France, I don't think he's changed all that much as a fighter. I just think he's gotten cleaner. He's still got the same tools, but he's a little cleaner, a little more technical. And that will help him out here against Brandon Moreno. But I really think Brandon Moreno's still ahead. And I also think Brandon Moreno, if you ask me, I think he's improved even more than Kai Kara-France since that first fight. He's looking way better every time we see him. Not only that, he's moved out of the Entron gym in Mexico. Now he's moved over to St. Louis, Missouri, I believe it is, to train. No, in Kansas City, to train with James Krause at Glory MMA and Fitness. And down there, he's training with David Onama, I believe it is. Who else is down there? I forget the names at times. Kevin Kroom, I know, is down there. They got some solid names down there. Not super big names, but he didn't have those big names down in Mexico. So I think Brandon, he's got a new coach with him, James Krause. Krause has amazing fight IQ. He's always a guy you want in your corner. He's going to be honest with you. He's going to tell Brandon if he needs to chase a finish. So I really like this fight. And Brandon Moreno will be styling on Kai Kara-France. Kai Kara-France, he does not have 5-round experience. Brandon Moreno does. So I think Brandon will be able to win this fight. I'm thinking we're looking at a 49-46 top fight here. I don't see Kai Kara-France winning more than 1 round. And if you want to talk grappling, Moreno has a serious edge here in the grappling. But Concar Friends obviously showed that he's improved in the defensive wrestling. But yeah, for Brandon Moreno, I think this is a very good fight for him. Really good bounce back fight, and he'll get that interim belt. And if Deiveson Figueiredo leaves the division, he'll be promoted to undisputed champion.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about the Glory MMA. Fantastic looks down there. As we talk about Tim Elliott, Grant Dawson, Jason Witt, Derek Minner. So as you talked about, he's going to get more looks. And I'm also in agreement that Brandon Moreno will not reclaim, but will win the interim flyweight championship of the world. I think it's going to be a similar fight. I think we're going to see Brandon Moreno in trouble at one point, but I think he's going to overcome it and just be better in the later rounds. That's where I feel like Brandon Moreno is going to really take over. The experience of them 5 rounds fights with Deiveson Figueiredo, I think it will take over in them later rounds, and then we're going to see Brandon Moreno come on strong and get the job done. This one's going to be a close fight, though. I think this one we might disagree with in the scorecards next week, but yeah, these two are really well matched, and I think this is going to be a really close fight.
Yeah, Brandon Moreno, obviously, I would say his boxing has really leveled up since that first fight, and I think that's going to be a huge skill in this one. There would be a concern for me if Brandon Moreno's chin wasn't so damn good. The guy is almost impossible to knock out. So, Kakar France, I think, probably has got his hands full here. He's fighting a guy that can outmatch him in the striking, and he's fighting a guy that can outmatch him in grappling. So, I think this is a very good fight for Moreno to win a unanimous decision and become the new interim flyweight champion.
Yes, I do agree. I also picked Brandon Moreno. But moving on swiftly on the main card, we got 2 big heavyweights. Derek Lewis will take on Sergey Pavlovich. And I've got to be honest, the run that Derek Lewis is on is not looking great for him. And then they've fed him to Sergey Pavlovich. And I've got to be honest, that's not really not really an easy ask for Derek Lewis. But we know that Derek Lewis doesn't really, MMA doesn't work on Lewis. And I feel like this might be another outcome, but I just see Sergey Pavlovich taking him down and having his way, to be honest.
Wow. That's not what I expected at all. In terms of Sergey Pavlovich offensive wrestling, I don't rate it super highly. And in fact, I don't rate it anywhere near where Curtis Blades is at. And you remember Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blades? He was defending those takedowns easily, man. Derek Lewis is super powerful. And even if he gets taken down, we know the guy's game is off the chain. He'll just muscle his way up. So for Derek Lewis, there's not that kind of concern for me. I think this is definitely a step down from Taito Ivasa. Derek Lewis, I think, will return to his winning ways. I think this is a really good fight for him. I think he can take down Sergey Pavlovich. He took down Alexei Olenek. He took down Taito Ivasa. He's gotten ground and pound finishes from the top. It's not all that. It's not always striking on the feet that gets him these finishes. I think he'll take down Sergey Pavlovich just because in the Taito Ivasa fight, he actually did it. So I think he'll take down Sergey. He'll get on top, finish him with ground and pound, knock him out like Alistair Overeem did. Alistair Overeem is not some crazy ground and pound artist, and he was able to do it to Sergey. Derek Lewis, definitely a ground and pound artist. I think he knocks out Sergey. And should this just stay on the feet, then we're looking at a 50-50 fight because Derek Lewis does not react well to damage at all. Yeah, ever since the Volkov fight, does not react well to damage. But Derek Lewis 100% has that power advantage here. And I don't think Sergey has the chin like Taito Ivasa does. Taito Ivasa has a tremendous chin. And I think Sergey Pavlovich will not be able to withstand the power of Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis has knocked out in a first round knockout since 2016. I think he'll do it this time around.
Well, we're both on a different side. You're on Derek Lewis. I'm on Sergey Pavlovich. So this could be the told you so far of the week. I don't know what it is about Lewis recently. Obviously, a bad run, losing the title of Arsenal. But before that, beating Chris Daukaus. And I would say that Chris Daukaus beat Sergey Pavlovich.
Yeah, that would be an interesting fight. But Derek Lewis, for me, is always a guy that's got that death touch. He can be losing the whole fight. And, of course, that Volkov fight is the perfect example of never count out Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis has got to win over the current UFC champion right now. People forget. It doesn't matter how how much of a better fighter you are. It's just, can you take that damage? Tai Tuivasa won that last fight because he could take that damage. I don't think Sergey can win this fight. And for Tai Tuivasa, that was a very clean elbow that would have knocked out a ton of people, including Sergey. I think Derek Lewis is being underestimated this fight week. I don't think he's on the same decline some people think that he's on. Heavyweights can last a long time, and I don't think Derek Lewis is quite yet in that phase.
Well, we'll find out all next week who's right, who's wrong. I'm excited for it, and it's a big one on the main card, so it gives it more of a big
fight of the week.
It gives it a bit more of a feel to it. But yeah, moving on to the other flyweight fight on the card, and it's another good one: Alexandre Pantoja versus Alex Perez. This is a really good fight on the main card between two top 5 flyweights. This is going to be a good one. But which side are you choosing?
I'm on the Alex Perez side. People forgot who the hell Alex Perez was. The last time he fought was 2020 in November. He fought in a title fight in his last fight. He fought Davison Figueiredo, and in that fight, he goes for a takedown, gets his head caught in a guillotine, and taps out in about 2 minutes, I think it was. And a lot of people, based on that fight, are just assuming the guy's submission defense is awful. I don't agree with that at all. I think Davison Figueiredo is a very effective finisher, and he just got him that night. And especially they were dry, so that's how he got him. Alexandre Pantoja, I would say, definitely is a better grappler than Davison Figueiredo, but in this case, I think Perez will not be looking to force that wrestling again. I think what he's going to be looking to do here is to box and to mix in some leg kicks. Perez is one of the most powerful leg kickers in this division. He's gotten a TKO via leg kicks against Jussier Formiga. So I think we're looking at a fight where Pantoja will probably have early success in this fight and maybe put Perez in danger, take his back. But I think Perez will stay safe there. And on the feet, I do think Perez has a higher striking output. Usually, if you look at the stats right here, Pantoja is slightly behind in the striking. He's at 4.2, and Perez is at 4.6. I think that little edge for Perez will do him good here. And I will say he's got the heavier hands in this matchup here. Perez has got some really good KOs in the UFC, so I will side with Perez. And also, Pantoja in that third round against Askarasov did not look good. He looked very slow. So I think Perez will be able to slightly edge him out here and get the win as an underdog.
Well, yeah, I absolutely agree. At least we have one. The same pick here, but yeah, I think the boxing of Perez is going to be what the difference is, and obviously the takedown defense. Pantoja, I think his way to victory is obviously taking him down, submitting Alex Perez, but I just don't see it being that easy for me to take him down. I think Perez has got, obviously, set from that loss to Davison Figueiredo. You know, he's not got a bad get-up game. His defense on the ground is good. But obviously that boxing that's where it's going to be the standout, and obviously the boxing is fantastic. But yeah, Pantoja, recently we've seen him submit, obviously, Brandon Royval, so he's on a good run. He's got a good run as late, but I think this is where it starts. I think Alex Perez could possibly even knock out Pantoja, or even knock out Pantoja or win a scorecard. That's what I'm going with. No submission I see here on this one, but if it goes submission, obviously Pantoja.
Yeah, this is a very significant fight in the division. I believe both guys are in the top 5. Pantoja, you gotta feel bad for him, because back when they were going to do the third fight between Figueiredo and Moreno, that was actually going to be Pantoja in there. But Pantoja got injured. That's why they did that trilogy. So Pantoja is definitely risking a spot here. I think Perez takes it back. Perez, of course, has had awful luck as of late, trying to get booked with Matt Schnell. Fight never came to fruition. You got to watch out for Perez on the scales, because if he's got a bad weight cut, that could be a warning sign. He did miss weight back in February, and that's why the Schnell fight didn't happen. So this is a close fight. I do think I will pick Alex Perez here. And he's still a young guy, not even 30. So he's definitely going to be making improvement under the tutelage of Colin Oyama, the coach of Carlos Esparza.
Yeah, 6 fights back-to-back that Alex Perez has had cancelled since his last fight against Davison Figueiredo. But yes, a fantastic fight on the main card in the flyweight division. But the next one to kick off the main card is a fascinating one. Magomed Ankalaev versus Anthony Smith in the light heavyweight division. A prospect versus a veteran. And I've got to say, the veteran Anthony Smith has got a hell of a chance. But Magomed Ankalaev, I just see being on a different wavelength. But yeah, Magomed is fantastic at striking. We've seen it with that front kick against Dalsha in his previous fights. And obviously his wrestling and his grappling is also very good. But I see some troubles for Anthony Smith posing a threat, but I just see him being on a different length, different wavelength, being on a different. It's just a different level, which is mad to say. But yes, Magomed Ankalaev, I believe, will get the job done. It would be interesting to see what Oscar Silva has to say.
Yeah, for me, this is pretty much a lock. This is a foregone conclusion. Magomed Ankalaev will beat Anthony Smith. I think we're looking at a dominant 3-round decision here. Ankalaev, of course, is from Dagestan, Russia. So he's got that wrestling background, but he does prefer to strike. And in fact, he fought Thiago Santos. And if you're fighting Thiago Santos, you should probably look to shoot some takedowns. But no, Magomed Ankalaev, it was very clear to me that he was concerned about getting gassed out like he did in the Paul Craig fight. Because so therefore, he did not look to wrestle. Wrestling, of course, is more taxing on your conditioning, and Ankalaev instead decided a point fight with Thiago. That was a really boring fight, and that's how I could see an opening for Anthony Smith to win if Ankalaev is not all that active on the feet and Anthony Smith is more aggressive. But here's the thing: this is not a 5-round fight, so the time is on Ankalaev's side. He can use that wrestling without getting concerned about tiring out in the later rounds and getting finished. So he can wrestle all he wants. And if you look at a perfect example of Anthony Smith fighting a solid wrestler and getting control for pretty much 15 minutes, look at that Alexander Rakic fight. Rakic, he's got a kickboxing background. He only started into MMA and then learned that wrestling. Ankalaev has been wrestling, majority of his life. So if Rakic can do it to Smith, I think Ankalaev can. And a real interesting sign to me, Anthony Smith, after that Rakic fight, he starts talking about moving down to 185 because he's so concerned about fighting these big, muscly guys up at light heavyweight. He starts talking about maybe I'll put on some muscle, but he's not done that. Instead, he actually got really overweight in this long layoff since the Ryan Spann fight. He got injured. And instead, now he's just lost the weight to move into light heavyweight. I think Magomed Ankalaev will outmuscle Anthony Smith here. I think he gets a takedown in every round. And Anthony Smith, he showed in the Rakic fight, he's got a willingness to stay down there and try to look for submissions. And for Anthony Smith, looking at that Paul Craig fight, he might be looking for a triangle, but Ankalaev, I think, will be able to defend those submission attempts. And if Anthony Smith looks to get up, there's no evidence to me that shows he'll succeed. So if this stays on the feet, I think Ankalaev has got the technical advantage. And on the ground, more powerful guy. We're looking at a 30-27 here from Magomed Ankalaev.
Absolutely agree. Magomed Ankalaev is the future of the light heavyweight division. And we've got a big test in front of him, Anthony Smith, a veteran, 36-16. He has a lot of fights. But yeah, Magomed Ankalaev, I believe, as he talks about, get 30-27 no scorecards. Be a dominant victory, and he moves towards that title in the light heavyweight division. Light heavyweight division is good. By the end of the year, I could probably see him in fight for a title, if not the start of next year.
100%. I think this guy's the future champion. Dana White has already stated the winner of this fight gets the title shot. But then again, he said it a couple months ago. Things change. The Glover Teixeira rematch could be on the table. But should Ankalaev look impressive in this one? I kind of feel like he's undeniable. He's on this big win streak. Only loss was to Paul Craig with 1 second left. I'm thinking Magomed Ankalaev will beat anybody that stands in his way of that championship. I think he's just too good. He does not take unnecessary risks. So he doesn't have the same holes in his game that even the champion does. So I think Magomed Ankalaev, if you look at that top 5, pretty much, I think basically everybody's a good matchup for him. Maybe I would say Rakic gives him problems. So but that's about it. I think Magomed is your future champion. He'll have a nice reign there at the top. And Anthony Smith is a guy that kind of has always stumbled at the top. You look at the Glover Teixeira fight, the John Jones fight. Anthony Smith will always be a tough fight for some guys, but I think Magomed is just very, very high level, and Anthony Smith is below his level in my eyes.
Yep, absolutely agree. Well, that's the main card. It's a good, really action-packed main card. But we move on to the prelims. The prelim headline: Alex Moreno versus Matthew Semelsberger. A really good one on the main in the prelims. And the main event in it. So, how's this one going?
So this is a fight between a very powerful puncher and Matthew Semelsberger. He likes to destroy guys early in the fight, but if he can't get that finish, he does slow down later in that fight. He's also got a good wrestling background. He showed it off in his last fight. I believe it was against AJ Fletcher. He got dominated in round 1, but come round 2 and round 3, he turns the tables on AJ and gets that decision. Also, the Chaos William fight, that showed off his chin. He's got a tremendous chin. He took clean shots from Chaos and kept on moving forward, and he stunned Chaos a couple times there. For Alex Moreno, he fought Chaos Williams in Williams' debut. He got knocked out in round 1, and I'm thinking that Semelsberger has got a real shot at doing that here. Moreno, he is a kickboxer, and he's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so should this hit the ground, we could see a submission for Moreno. He got Anthony Pettis' back in round 1 when they fought, so Moreno is dangerous everywhere. The Mickey Gall fight, that was not an impressive performance to me. He fought Mickey Gall, who, his striking is always getting better, but it's not all that great. And he has a close third round with Mickey Gall just striking. So for Moreno, I don't think he's a guy that really jumps off the page for me anywhere. He's not top 15 material, but he's one of those guys that's a jack of all trades and will definitely give prospects like Semelsberger a tough fight. So this is a close fight to me, but I will ultimately side with Matthew Semelsberger. He's got, more pop on his punches there, and I do think he's got the speed advantage. So I'll side with Semelsberger. I'll say decision, but that first round KO is on the table.
Yeah, Semelsberger likes to get it done in them first 15 seconds. It happened in his debut against Jason Witt, I believe, and then obviously against Martin Sano. 15 seconds, 16 seconds. And if you look at Alex Moreno, was it his? No, not his debut. Against Chaos Williams, he got knocked out in 27 seconds. So yeah, it's definitely a big possibility in them 30 seconds that we could see a finish.
Yeah, 100%. It's only Anthony Rumble Johnson and Matthew Semelsberger that have KOs inside of 20 seconds.
Absolutely, I do agree. I think Matthew Semelsberger is gonna. Yeah, I think he's gonna finish Alex Moreno in this one. A really good one on the main in the prelims. But the one next to it is absolutely more fascinating. Drew Dober versus Rafael Alves. This one is the really one we're looking at on the prelims.
100%. Drew Dober is never in a boring fight, really. In his last fight, he fought Terrence McKinney, and that is a nominee already in my eyes for round of the year. Probably comeback of the year, too. Drew Dober, he got destroyed early in that fight. He got kicked right in the face. He got caught with a knee, and he got dropped right away. Terrence McKinney was landing huge ground and pound punches, and Dober is still able to get up. And Dober's chin is just off the chain, man, and he's able to weather that Terrence McKinney storm. And eventually, he catches Terrence with a knee of his own, and he finishes Terrence. Terrence was completely gassed out at that point. Dober is not a guy you want to bum rush, and that's what Alves likes to do in his fights. He likes to go for that finish right away. So should that Alves first round finish game plan backfire, we're going to see Dober probably take over and probably finish Alves. Dober hits very hard. He's gotten first round KOs over very notable names, including Nazareth Hackrast. So Dober is also a quick starter. So we're going to see one hell of a banger fight. I definitely see a finish going down here. But he's the concern for me with Dober. He's taken a ton of damage across his UFC career. He's been in several Fight of the Nights, and in his last 2 fights, I believe he's been knocked down about 3 times. The Brad Riddell fight was a absolutely crazy fight. In that fight, when he got rocked, both guys, when they got rocked in that fight, they went right ahead for a takedown, and they did get it. And you look at Brad Riddell versus Jalen Turner. He gets rocked. He goes for a takedown, gets his head stuck in a guillotine. And what did Rafael Alves do to Mark Jacasey in his last fight? He stuns Jacasey with a jab, and Jacasey goes for a takedown, and Rafael Alves gets him in that guillotine. That's what I'm thinking here. I'm picking the underdog, Rafael Alves, to stun Dober early and to get a guillotine when Dober goes for a takedown. Rafael Alves is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Most of his wins are via submission. And Dober, pretty much all of his losses in the UFC, Beneil Dariush, you look at that fight, he got submitted. I think that Dober gets caught in a guillotine. First round finish for Rafael Alves.
Yep. You're going with Alves. I'm going with Drew Dober. I think Drew Dober's got all the makings to get this one done. After the first round, he talked about Alves not looking himself, and I believe that's what's going to. I think the second and the third round is where Dober's going to win this one. And I think he's going to win it on the scorecards.
Wow, that would be very, very interesting there. Dober, of course, is the favorite here. Dober has fought the better competition. Of course, he almost beat Brad Riddell. Actually scored the fight for Dober there. He fought Beneil Dariush. That was a very fun fight, too. I think Alves, his submission offense is a big deal here. And I think Dober will fall into the trap because Dober, he always goes into that firefight. And Alves hits very hard. When he fought Damir Ismagulov is a top-tier lightweight right now. I know he's not even, I think he's just like number 15 right now, but I think he could beat maybe some top 15 guys. Alves dropped him immediately. So I don't care who you are, Alves can drop you, and he can definitely get that finish. So I'm going with Alves. This is another fight we're at odds.
Yeah, and when there's a Drew Dober fight, there's most likely to be a finish. If you look at his record, 24 wins, 11 KOs, 6 submissions, and only 7 decisions. His losses, 1 KO, 4 submissions, and 6 decisions. So a lot of finishes in his career. But I pick Drew Dober to get a decision. But obviously, Drew Dober is always in a firefight. He likes to make it entertaining, so anything could really happen. So this could also be a told you so fight of the week.
Yeah, and these are two guys coming out of good camps. Rafael Alves trains at MMA Masters with Miguel Baez, Colby Covington, and Drew Dober trains at Elevation Fight Team with Justin Gaethje, Kamaru Usman at times. Really good,
Absolutely
camps. These guys are fighting out of. This is going to be a very fun one, no doubt. I think we're looking at a finish or a fight of the night.
Absolutely agree. We'll swiftly move on to a heavyweight banger. This one is going to be an interesting watch because we've got Dontel Maines, who likes to wrestle, and then on the other side, we got, you know how bad I am with names, Oscar. You've probably practiced one a few times, so have you knuckled this one down before I try?
I'm just going to call him Hamdi. I officially quit. I'm not even going to try with that last name. But Hamdi is a decorated wrestler. Very decorated. But he's a guy that actually prefers to strike. He's one of those guys that has fallen in love with his hands. And I think against Dontel Maines, I don't think that's a great game plan. Hamdi has not fought good competition at all. In fact, his last fight was... I believe it was in Jorge Masvidal's Icon FC. If you look at the fighters on that card, they're not high level at all. I think that was actually bare knuckle MMA too. I don't rate Hamdi all that highly. I don't rate Dontel Maines all that highly. But here's the thing: he's gotten UFC wins. He's shown he can fight 15 minutes even if he's tired. I think Dontel Maines will definitely have the advantage after we get out of round one here. I think Dontel Maines does have a slightly better striking technique. Once Hamdi can't get that first round finish, I think we look at Dontel Maines get a decision here and maybe a third round TKO. In fact, I'll go third round TKO. I just have no faith in Hamdi when you're fighting absolute cans. Like Hamdi's last fight was an 0-2 40-year-old. He's not tested at all. Dontel Maines has fought some decent guys. I think Dontel Maines he's more proven, and he'll get that third round TKO. His gas tank is not all that good, but look at that Josh Parisian fight. He can take advantage of guys that who have awful gas tanks. So I'll go with Mace.
Yeah, I think that's the obviously the real telling point of this fight is the experience of Dontel Maines is vastly superior. Hamdi obviously 3 fights in MMA, 2 of them and 2 other fights in MMA bare knuckle for the Game Bread promotion. There's not really much we could take away from his fights, to be honest with you. As he talked about 0-0 against Matthew Strickland, Tyler Lee, he was 3-2, and Dustin Clements, he was 4-4. And he's fought Matthew Strickland, who he fought in his last fight in MMA twice, one in bare knuckle MMA and one in MMA. So there's not much we can really take away from this guy. He's had a few amateur fights as well, but there's not really too much we can take away. And Dontel Maines, as he talked about, proven inside the UFC, has UFC wins, has a really good amateur record, 7-0 in amateur, lost to, Cyril Gane and Rodrigo Nascimento. In Cyril Gane, obviously, that loss, that aged well, got on to be a champion inside the UFC. Interim champion. Rodrigo Nascimento, obviously, 8-1, proved his time a little bit inside the UFC, got Tanabosa. But yeah, I got to agree with you. I think the experience and having that high level competition inside the UFC is going to play factor in this weekend. I think Dontel Maines is going to probably not wrestle him, but just have his way maybe on the feet. That's the only way I could probably see it going.
I believe that Dontel Maines will have a wrestling advantage after round 1. Against Sean Parisian, he used it. I think I just think Hamdi, you're fighting complete nobodies who have no business being across the cage with you. I think Hamdi, the only way he wins is if he gets himself first round KO, or if he gets a takedown and just stays on top of Dontel. But I have no faith in Hamdi's skill set at all. This is a guy that probably should have been on the Contender Series, if anything.
Absolutely agree. I'm not too sure why the UFC signed this guy, but here we are. The UFC have made some questionable decisions. This could be another one. But swiftly moving over to the prelim opener. Draco Close, against Rafa Garcia in the lightweight division. This is a good fight. This could be a banger. Draco Close obviously getting the win in his last fight, and Rafa Garcia is always an entertaining fight.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting fight because we have 2 guys that are actually really well-rounded. But for Draco Close, there's still question marks around this guy. So in 2020, March of 2020, he fights Beneil Dariush. He had never been finished part of the Beneil Dariush fight, and he gets clipped bad in that round 2, and he gets knocked out. But that was after he almost finished Beneil Dariush. But that's a real warning sign. Beneil Dariush, the only guy he knocked out part of that was James Vick. James Vick, of course, is the butt of every bad chin joke. So Jakar then goes on to get booked to fight Jeremy Stevens, and he gets concussed by a shove. That is still one of the weirdest scenarios in the sport. So his durability is very questionable. That was a bad concussion. He then comes back and fights. The name is slipping me right now, but it was a lower level guy from the PFL, and he goes out there and destroys him, gets a second round TKO. Rafa Garcia, on the other hand, is super durable, but the gas stick is not all that good. When he fought Chris Grutzmacher, he was a huge favorite. I told everybody, bet on this guy, first round KO. He drops Chris Grutzmacher, is unable to finish it, and he proceeds to gas out in rounds 2 and 3, and Chris punishes him with body shots, and he does get a takedown in that round 3, but he's too tired to do anything with it. I think this is a fight where Rafa probably hurts Jakar early, but after that, Jakar will be able to probably get takedowns of his own and just do well on the feet. I think Jakar, unless the durability is not what we once thought it was, I think Jakar Close is the better fighter, has got the way better wins on the record. You're looking at a win over Bobby Green and Lando Venata. I think Jakar Close is a higher level fighter, but it's the durability that worries me.
Absolutely agree. Obviously, you talked about Draco Close in his last fight. It was Brandon Jenkins, 15 and 8. But yeah, as you talked about, obviously that durability of getting finished by Beneil Dariush in a world fight, back and forth, and obviously getting clipped and getting dropped. Absolutely wild. But yes, I choose Drakkar Close. I think he can get it done against Rafa Garcia. You talked about them wins against Bobby Green, Lando Venata. That Bobby Green win is aged aged really good because obviously Bobby Green went on a good run and obviously fell short against Islam Makhachev. But that's there's no shame in that. But yes, I agree with you. Drakkar Close is going to get this one done. It'll be interesting to see how he looks after his last fight. But yeah, he did look good in his last fight. His striking looked good, but obviously that was against Brandon Jenkins, so there's not too much we could take against that one. On the early prelims, we've got a few good fights. We've got Moraes versus Fugit in the early prelims opener. Who are you picking on? Are you going Moraes or Fugit?
So Morales is the biggest favorite on the card, if I'm not mistaken. And I would say rightfully so. Morales is an Ecuadorian prospect. He fought on the Contender Series against a Kazakhstani prospect, and he was an underdog in that fight, a sizable underdog. And he goes out there and stuffs all the takedowns and outboxes them on the feet. He looks fantastic in there. And this is a guy that prior to that Contender Series fight, he's knocking out everybody primarily in round one. He's an absolute powerful beast. He fought Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles is a guy that has once fought at light heavyweight, and he goes out there and knocks out Trevin Giles cold. Round one. He's very powerful, man. And against Adam Fugit, I think we're looking at a scenario where he does the same thing he did to Trevin Giles. Fugit is coming in on short notice. He's a regional welterweight champion. In his last fight, he fought Solomon Renfro. Solomon Renfro is a guy that the UFC has been looking to sign for about 2 years now. He trains at Tiger Schulman's with Shane Burgos. Everybody likes him. He's got a very fan-friendly style, but he did lose a split on the Contender Series and on the regional circuit. He was doing well until he ran into Adam Fugit. Adam Fugit has got serious pop. He knocks out Solomon Renfro in 43 seconds in February of this year. So that was a real statement. He did lose to Nick Maximov via guillotine and submission underground. But the real concern for me is his loss to Kylan Hill in LFA. He got knocked out in 1 minute and 31 seconds. And I think Morales is very capable of doing the same thing. Also, a notable name on his record, he lost to Austin Vanderford when Vanderford was 1-0. That was a unanimous decision. So Vanderford did not knock him out there. So for me, I think Morales knocks him out round one. Fugit, he does have decent grappling here. He can grind out some guys, but Morales has shown good takedown defense. I think he's going to be able to find the chin on Adam Fugit and look like the big favorite that he is.
Yeah, absolutely. 13-0, 23 years of age. Or 22, actually, 20 years, 23. 23 years of age. June 24th. He was born in 2000, and now he's fighting inside the UFC. It's actually crazy between, seeing these young guys born in the 2000s fighting inside the UFC now. We've had it with, obviously, Mohamed Morakeef, and now obviously Michael Morales. And yes, I absolutely agree. 13 wins, 10 finishes, 1 submission, and only 2 decisions. I think Michael Morales is going to look fantastic this Saturday. I think he's going to get finished, as you talked about, against Adam Fugit, and I think he's going to knock him out in either in the first round or the second round.
Yeah, I'm very confident in this one, honestly. As I said, Morales is a big favorite for a reason. I expect the first round KO.
Absolutely phenomenal. Then we move on swiftly to the women's bantamweight fight between Jocelyn Edwards and John Yoon Kim. John Yoon Kim stepping up to fight Jocelyn Edwards. This could be a tricky one for her, but yes, I do believe that John Yoon Kim is going to get this one done. But what does Oscar Silva think?
I really think this is a good fight for Jocelyn Edwards. Not because I would say she's all that much of a better technical fighter. It's because she has had success up at featherweight. She's very big, I would say, if she puts on weight. She fought, who was it, Ramon Pascual in her last fight. I wouldn't say that was a good performance. She got rocked multiple times in that fight. But her takedown defense did look improved, and the output was there. Ji Young Kim, in fact, I think she landed like the most strikes in women's featherweight history, I believe, on that night. So she's got a solid gas tank. And for Ji Young Kim, she has fought basically her whole career at women's flyweight. And even in that weight class, we saw her against Priscilla Cachoeira. She was outpowered. Priscilla won that fight via split decision only because the judges saw that Priscilla did have the power edge and she was walking forward. Ji Young came up. Of course, I thought she totally got robbed in that fight, but either way, she did have the power disadvantage against a flyweight, and now she's fighting a girl that has fought at featherweight before. And I think Jocelyn Edwards does have the power edge in here. And for Ji Young Kim, she's somebody that never shoots takedowns, and of course, that's Edwards' her big flaw. But if we keep it striking, we're looking at a close fight where I think the judges will favor Edwards' power edge here. She's going to have more pop on her punches. And, I think Kim will just be behind there. Even if Kim outstrikes her, we're looking at Edwards landing the bigger strikes.
Yeah, Jocelyn Edwards burst onto the scene with a fantastic striking in a UFC debut against, off the top of my head, Yanan Wu. Then obviously dropped back-to-back losses to Carol Rosa, Justin Rose Clark, and obviously Pascal. She got in her last fight. She got the dub. But yeah, I'm on Jun Young Kim. You're on Jocelyn Edwards. So there's a few fights that we've picked differently this week. So there could be a few I told you so fights of the week. I'm brushing my shoulders. Right. I'm dusting them off. I'm getting them ready.
All right. Yeah, I'm very ready for this event, man. But in this fight, I really think that that if Edwards was like Ji Young Kim's size, I would pick Ji Young Kim, but I'm really thinking that the size advantage for Jocelyn Edwards will play a factor in this fight. Also, when Ji Young Kim fought Molly McCann, she got rocked a lot of times in that fight. So Ji Young Kim's striking defense is not all that good either. So I will side with Jocelyn Edwards in this fight. I really think that she's the one that belongs in this weight class, and I don't think Ji Young Kim belongs in this weight class.
Absolutely. So we'll move on to a light heavyweight matchup between Nick Nurmagomedov. Oh, that's probably the best pronunciation I've ever done in my life. But against Ihor, I want to say Ihor Potieria. I don't know. But we're going to go with Ihor. So Nick Nurmagomedov versus Ihor. That's what I'm going with. Or Ihor. I don't know.
Yeah. This is, once again, this is another fight where we have an unproven guy versus a guy that's got a couple wins in the UFC. Nikolai Negumereanu he's a monster, man, in terms of he'll walk you down even if he's getting tagged the whole time. But that for certain judges that will, sway them a little bit. When he fought, who was it? Kennedy Nzechukwu, that was a clear robbery to me. Nikolai only won that because because Kennedy got the point deductions there. But either way, for me, Nikolai did have more the advantage there in the clinch. He's a strong guy. He's a very durable guy. Never been knocked out, even though he's eaten like hundreds of punches already. Ihor, on the other hand, is a quick starter. He's a knockout artist from Ukraine. He's coming to get this quick finish, just like he did on the Contender Series. But honestly, I don't really know if Ihor will be able to have 15 minutes of gas. He hasn't shown that he can do it against a really good guy. In his last fight, he fought an 8-0 Lucas Sudolowski. That was in round one. Before that, he gets a round one finish against a 5-2 guy. Part of that, he gets a second round finish against an 11-5 guy. Those are the best guys he's fought. Besides that, he's fighting absolute cans. He's got a 1-9 guy in his record. Yeah, he's had a really long run of fighting guys with bad records. Maybe he's actually good, but he's got to prove it to me here. I will side with Ihor to win this fight. Probably split decision, just because Nikolai is just super hittable. So this is a close fight. I'm surprised Ihor is this big of a favorite, but I will side with Negumereanu. I think this should be a pick'em fight. So I'm flipping back and forth here, but I'll pick Ihor.
I'll go Nick Nurmagomedov in this one. Again, if you look at Ihor's record, not really impressive for me. If you look at his last few fights, really not impressive either. Yes, he got the winner on the Contender Series, but if you look at if you look at the guys he fought before he got to the UFC, 0-4, 0-3, 0-0, 17-18, 1-9, 0-0. It's looks a bit padded, if you to say the least. And his losses do come early in the early stage of his career. He got knocked out. One of them lost the decision. One was against the 3-2 guy. One was against the 2-2 guy. So there's a lot of question marks to be answered for Ihor, and I feel like he's going to be found out a little bit against Nick Nurmiani, and I think he's going to either finish him or it's going to go to the scorecards. And I think Nick is going to get better him.
You know, when I'm picking Nurmiani, this is a very close fight, but there's no evidence of Ihor, looking good across 15 minutes. Nurmiani, he will have 15 minutes of gas. He'll push forward. He'll get some clutch control time. I think Nikolai wins this. Move on now to the next fight at welterweight. This is a ticking time bomb of a fight. We're looking at somebody getting destroyed here. We're not going to see a third round. Orion Kosi, he and his brother on the Contender Series both got finishes there. I do think Orion is less powerful than his brother, but I do think he's got better wrestling than his brother, and he's got a better gas tank. His sole UFC fight was a finish against Philip Rowe. That was a fight where he dominated round 1 with wrestling, but come round 2, he got put in the clinch. He hit huge knees and elbows, got knocked out there. That wasn't a good look, but Phil Rowe is a monster, and he's really big. Blood Diamond, on the other hand, we're looking at a very unproven guy. He got a bunch of knockouts against, low-level guys on the regional circuit. He's got a kickboxing background, trains at City Kickboxing. All the guys on that team are saying this guy's a very special guy, very powerful and quick guy, but we haven't seen evidence of it against good competition. He fought Jeremiah Wells, which Jeremiah Wells is an absolute powerhouse. Wells trips early, so Blood Diamond goes in there, tries to knock out Wells, and instead he gets caught in the clinch. He gets taken down, mauled, gives up his back, gets choked unconscious. That was a really bad performance. I think Orion Kosi is very strong. I think he can take down Blood Diamond first round, and maybe gets a ground and pound finish, maybe crucifix or submission. I'll say it takes him a while, though. He's not as good as Wells. Wells is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's stronger probably. So I'll say round 2, submission or ground and pound for Orion Kosi. I'll say submission for Orion Kosi round 2. I just think Blood Diamond has had almost zero MMA experience. He's going to be a fish out of water on the ground with Orion.
Absolutely agree. I think Aaron Kosi is going to get this one done. If you look at his record, only one submission win, and that was Kamaru. But that doesn't really matter when you're coming up against obviously Blood Diamond. Hasn't been really trained MMA his whole life. So obviously the takedown defense, he needs to catch up. He needs to catch up with that wrestling, and I just see he's on a really big disadvantage because obviously, as I talked about, he wasn't really training MMA. He's kickboxing, and obviously he got trying to transition over to a totally different sport, and it's just going to be hard for him to catch up against obviously Aaron Kosi, who's trained MMA, done it his whole life, and even though he might not be the best submission guy or the grappling guy, but he's definitely going to have the advantage over Blood Diamond. And I see him taking a smart game plan, and as he talked about, a round 2 submission is very likely.
He's got some arm bars and Kamaru on his record. Also on the Contender Series, in the 3rd round, he got a ground and pound from the crucifix position against a 9-0 Mac Dixon. So he is a pretty dangerous man. It's just that Phil Rowe fight was a real tough matchup. But I think Blood Diamond not only way smaller than Phil Rowe, just way less skilled on the ground. I think we're looking at Orion Kosi going back to his winning ways, and I think Blood Diamond will get himself a cut after this one. I don't think he'll look good.
Absolutely, he was meant to fight on the Israel Adesanya card. I do believe so.
Yeah,
and then or was it the Volkanovski card?
Might have been both. I feel like he's got a couple cancellations for this fight, but either way, I'm not impressed with what I've seen so far. But hey, he does 100% have a puncher's chance or a kicker's chance because he is damn good there in that area.
Absolutely. If you look at the main card here, I'll quickly pull it up. Obviously, fantastic main card. 2 title fights. Top of the bill, Nunes, Julia Pena. Co-main event, Brandon Moreno versus Kai France. That's a fantastic fight. I'm looking forward to that one. And obviously, we've got Derek Lewis, Sergey Pavlovich. We've got a really good main card, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I just can't wait to hear the Raw of Bruce Buffer because it's a pay-per-view event. It just feels totally different.
Yeah, we got 2 of these in the month of July, so feel kind of spoiled here. Very excited to see 2 title fights, 2 rematches. Of course, we were set to have Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold on the card. That would have been, the frosting on the cake, but you can't have everything. But no, I really think this card will deliver. This card does not have the same hype on it that UFC 276 did, but it could be just as good. Just like UFC 275 did not have that much hype, but boy, did it delivered. It's always these cards that people overlook that are crazy.
Absolutely. I can't wait. It's going to be a fantastic event. I'm sure excited for it. And obviously, I hope the fights deliver. But yeah, this pretty much wraps up the episode. Is there anything else that you like to? Obviously, we've got Dana White Contender Series starting off today.
Yeah, they got some quality guys on the Contender Series. Joseph Pfeiffer versus Ozzy Diaz is the main event. They got Dennis Bazooka. Dennis Bazooka trains with Maram Dvalishvili and Aljamain Sterling. So I'm excited for the Contender Series. Of course, the Ultimate Fighter is done. Want to talk about those matchups? They're booked for August 6th. In the men's heavyweight finale, we have Muhammad Usman versus Zach Pauga. What do you make of that matchup and the work they did in the house?
I think it's an intriguing matchup. I think my favorite was Zach Pauga. I think Muhammad Usman. I think obviously there's a lot to work on there. I think he gets hit a little bit too much, and I think Zach Pauga is very efficient with his work. Striking. Obviously, he's a former 205 pounder. I think he's going to be quicker than Muhammad Usman, and I think that's going to pay dividends on the fight day.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I believe both guys aren't legit heavyweights. I think they're real light heavyweights. Zach Pauga, training partner of Curtis Blades and Alistair Overeem. He's got a Muay Thai background too. I think not only is he the better striker, he's the better grappler by miles. And I think should he take it on the ground, he can get him finished. And if they stay striking, I think he can get a finish. Muhammad Usman, on the show, he fought 2, I would say, overweight guys that are not all that skilled. And he took them to split decisions. And I thought he lost both fights. So I don't rate Usman highly at all. He's not even half the fighter his brother is. So I'm really confident that Zach Pauga will maul him and get himself a finish and become the heavyweight ultimate fighter for season 30. And at women's flyweight, the finale is Juliana Miller versus Brogan Walker. I really like that matchup. I think it's going to be super exciting because Miller always walks forward.
Absolutely, it's a fantastic matchup. And I'm quite surprised that Juliana Miller made it to the final, one of the least experienced in the tough house, but she made it all the way. She got that jump and obviously against Brogan Walker, 7-2 in her mixed martial arts career. And I really like Brogan Walker in this fight. I think she can get it done pretty much wherever. I think the striking, obviously, Juliana Miller is good at, but I think the grappling and mix it up, I think that's where we're going to see Brogan Walker really shine.
Yeah, Juliana Miller really surprised everybody. She fought Claire Guthrie, who she had lost to before the show, and she goes out there and wins a close decision. She really showed that she's a true warrior in that fight. I thought she lost the fight, quite honestly. She's super hittable, man. She will walk forward at whatever cost, and she's always looking to get that submission, and she did get it against Caitlin Neal. She got that arm bar. She's dangerous on the ground, but she's fighting Brogan Walker. Brogan Walker, she did have a knee injury on the show, and that's a concern, but either way, with that knee injury, she still beat Laura Gallardo, who's a better wrestler than Juliana Miller. So I'm looking to see Brogan stuff those takedowns, and she's good fighting backwards too. She's got that Muay Thai style. She's from Guam. I think she really pieces her up on the feet, stays away from any dangerous grappling scrambles, and I think she wins a decision there too. So I'm really excited for that finale. It goes down August 6th, UFC Vegas 59 in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. That wraps up here pretty much on this episode number 84, I want to say, of the Mark and Silva MMA show. Yeah, we've been going on for a very long time. This is phenomenal. We're keeping it good.
Yeah, we're coming up on 2 years now in October. I believe it is. So we've really got into a flow state now, and we got our feet under us. Very excited for the future of this show.
Absolutely agree. We hope you all have a good day. We hope the fights this week can entertain, and obviously we have a lot of hopefully we have a lot of talk points again next week. Thank you all for joining us. From me and Oscar, a very goodbye. We talk to you same time next week, Tuesday, 6:15 p.m. BST and 12:15 Central Time. Yes, I think that's correct.
There we are. Yep, you got the time zone right. After all this time, very excited for next week too, where we get to recap all the action from UFC 277, Pena versus Nunes 2, and then we get to talk about the tough finale, UFC Vegas 59. So very good.
Santos versus Jamal Hill.
Yeah, hopefully Pena doesn't take too bad of a beating, because I do enjoy her in that corner of her students.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, as you talked about Thiago Santos versus Jamal Hill. Yeah, in the main event.
That's a real banger.
Absolutely.
That could be Jamal Hill getting himself another statement KO. That's what he's been doing these days. Getting the KO over Johnny Walker and Jimmy Crute. Very dangerous prospect.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, we got to talk about all next week, so make sure you tune in next week. Same time here next week on a Tuesday. So thank you all for joining us. We'll see you all next week. Have a great weekend. See you later. Goodbye.